The person you love is pleading with you. Please read this message before it disappears. I don't want to lose you, my beloved child. Before this message fades into silence, you need to know that someone has been carrying words too heavy to speak out loud. They have rewritten this message more times than they can count. Afraid that one wrong sentence could push you farther away forever. They keep asking themselves whether you'll even believe what you're about to hear or whether you'll close the door before the truth reaches your heart. Don't skip, because what happens next isn't just another confession. It could explain every strange feeling you've had lately. There was a moment not long ago when this person stood with their phone in their hand, staring at your name for what felt like hours. Their thumb hovered over the send button, then, clears throat, stopped. Fear won again, but tonight feels different. Tonight they know that if they stay silent one more time, they may lose the chance to tell you what has been hidden all along. And the first line of that message isn't what anyone would expect. The words didn't begin with an apology. They began with a question that had been living inside them for far too long. Do you still believe there's a place for me in your future? That single sentence carried months of sleepless nights, quiet regrets, and countless moments when they almost walked away because they thought you deserved someone stronger. Yet every attempt to leave only pulled them back toward you. They started noticing little reminders everywhere. A familiar song, an old conversation, a place that suddenly felt incomplete without the thought of you. Stay till the end. Because the deeper they searched for a reason to let go, the more impossible it became. Then something unexpected happened. They found an old draft they had written long before today, one they never meant anyone to read. Inside it was a promise they had secretly made to themselves. A promise that could change everything you think you know about their silence. That hidden promise revealed that they never stopped choosing you, even during the moments when it looked like they were drifting away. Every quiet day, every delayed reply, every uncertain step was covering a battle you were never meant to carry. They believed that protecting you meant keeping their fears locked inside. But now they realize silence has created a distance far greater than honesty ever could. Something huge is waiting for you because the message you're about to uncover doesn't end with regret. It leads to a decision that cannot be taken back. Just as they prepared to send the final version, a new notification appeared on their screen. It wasn't from a stranger. It was from someone who knew a secret about both of you. And the words in that notification instantly made them freeze. Instead of pressing send, they whispered, "If they read this first, everything will change." And that is exactly where the real story begins. The screen stayed lit, but their hand refused to move. That unexpected notification wasn't a warning. It was a memory brought back to life by someone who had witnessed a moment you were never supposed to know about. The message simply read, "Before you send anything, tell them what happened that evening." Their heartbeat raced because they knew exactly which evening it meant. It was the night everything changed without you ever realizing it. Don't skip, because the truth hidden inside that memory explains why they suddenly became quieter, more distant, and yet somehow more emotionally connected to you than ever before. They had convinced themselves that keeping this secret would protect both of you. But now they understood that every day of silence had only built a wall neither of you deserved. They opened an old conversation buried beneath months of forgotten messages. There, untouched and unsent, was a letter they had written after watching you walk away without looking back. It wasn't filled with blame. It wasn't filled with excuses. Instead, every sentence revealed how terrified they were of becoming another disappointment in your life. They admitted they had imagined hundreds of futures together. Yet, every dream ended the same way, with them wondering if they were enough. Stay till the end, because this is where everything begins to shift. As they reread those words, they noticed one sentence they didn't even remember writing. If someone ever tells you I stopped caring, promise me you'll search for the truth before believing them. The moment they saw it, they realized someone had quietly been shaping the story between you from the shadows. That realization hit harder than anything else. Suddenly, small moments that once seemed meaningless started connecting like pieces of a forgotten puzzle. The strange misunderstandings, the conversations that ended too quickly, the unexplained distance, none of them had happened by chance. Someone had been influencing what each of you believed, one quiet moment at a time. Something huge is waiting for you because they finally decided that no secret was worth losing you forever. They erased every draft except one. The most honest message they had ever written. Just as they placed their finger over the send button again, another alert appeared. This time it contained a single photograph captured only hours earlier. And the moment they recognized what was inside that image, every plan they had made changed instantly. For several long seconds, they couldn't even breathe. The photograph wasn't blurry. It wasn't mysterious because of what it showed. It was mysterious because of what it proved. In the corner of the image was something they recognized immediately. A small detail they had once shared only with you. No one else should have known it existed. Their thoughts raced through every possibility, but each answer only led to another question. How had this image surfaced now? Who had taken it? And why was it arriving at the exact moment they had finally found the courage to tell you everything? Don't skip, because this wasn't just another coincidence. It felt as though someone had been waiting for the perfect moment to interrupt the truth before it reached you. They enlarged the photo again and again, searching for anything they had missed. Then they noticed something almost invisible. A handwritten note resting near the edge of the frame. Most people would have overlooked it, but they recognized the handwriting instantly. It belonged to someone who had once encouraged them to stop hiding their feelings and speak honestly before it was too late. The note contained only one sentence. If you're reading this, you're almost out of time. Those words didn't create panic. They created clarity. For the first time, they understood that delaying the truth had never protected anyone. It had only allowed confusion to grow stronger. Stay till the end. Because what they did next was completely different from every decision they had made before. Instead of deleting the message once again, they opened a blank screen and began typing with a confidence they had never felt. Every word came from the place they had spent so long trying to silence. They admitted the fears they had hidden, the moments they almost reached out, and the countless times they had hoped you somehow understood what they could never say aloud. But just before they pressed send, their phone vibrated one final time. It wasn't another interruption. It was a message from you. There were only a few words on the screen, but those few words made their eyes fill with emotion. There's something I've been wanting to tell you, too. Something huge is waiting for you. Because in that single instant they realized this story had never been about one person searching for the courage to speak. It had been about two hearts carrying the same unspoken truth. Both standing on the edge of a conversation that could change everything. A single sentence changed the entire atmosphere. They stared at your message over and over, almost afraid that if they blinked, it would disappear. For so long they believed they were the only one carrying unanswered questions, the only one rehearsing impossible conversations in the middle of the night. Now everything felt different. The silence between you no longer seemed empty. It suddenly felt full of words that had simply been waiting for the right moment. Don't skip, because the next decision would determine whether those unspoken feelings finally found a voice or remained hidden forever. Instead of replying immediately, they closed their eyes for just a moment, wanting their answer to come from honesty instead of fear. As they began typing, every sentence they had prepared suddenly felt too small. None of the carefully rehearsed words could describe what they had been carrying inside. So they erased everything and started again with complete honesty. If I've seemed distant, it wasn't because you meant less to me. It was because you meant more than I knew how to handle. They paused, wondering if that truth would be enough. Then another memory surfaced. The day they almost confessed everything face to face but turned away after convincing themselves that your future would be brighter without them. They had never stopped replaying that moment. Stay till the end, because they were finally ready to reveal the one choice they regretted more than any other. The choice that had quietly shaped every day since. Their finger moved toward the send button one final time. But before they could press it, they noticed something unexpected beneath your message. A second text had arrived only seconds later, almost as if you had sensed their hesitation. It simply said, "Please don't disappear again. I need you to know what I finally discovered." Those words stopped them cold. You weren't asking for explanations. You were asking for a chance. Their heartbeat quickened as they realized both of you had uncovered different pieces of the same hidden story. And only by sharing them could the full truth finally come into view. Something huge is waiting for you, because the message they were about to send would unlock a revelation neither of you had ever imagined. And once those words were spoken, there would be no turning back. Their hearts settled into an unfamiliar calm. For the first time in what felt like forever, they stopped worrying about saying the perfect thing and focused on saying the true thing. The fear of being misunderstood slowly gave way to something stronger, hope. They realized that every delayed conversation, every unanswered question, and every quiet goodbye had been leading to this exact moment. Don't skip, because what happened next wasn't dramatic in the way movies often show. It was quieter, deeper, and far more powerful. They pressed send, and the message that had lived in silence for so long finally began its journey toward you. Only a few seconds passed before they saw the small indicator that you were reading. Those seconds felt longer than the months they had spent holding everything inside. They imagined every possible reaction. Would you close the message halfway through? Would you misunderstand the words? Or would you recognize the truth hidden between every line? Then your reply appeared, but it wasn't what they expected. You didn't question their intentions. You didn't remind them of the distance. Instead, you wrote, "I always felt there was something you couldn't say. I was just waiting until you were ready. Stay till the end." Because those simple words dissolved years of uncertainty in an instant. They realized you had noticed far more than they had ever believed. Quietly seeing the emotions they had tried so hard to hide. As they continued reading your message, one final sentence appeared at the bottom, almost like it had been waiting for the perfect moment to reveal itself. It read, There's one last truth you still don't know, and I couldn't tell you until today." Their eyes widened. They had believed they were the one carrying the biggest secret. Yet now it seemed you had been protecting something just as important. Every assumption they had made shifted in a heartbeat. The conversation was no longer about explaining the past. It was about uncovering a future neither of you had dared imagine. Something huge is waiting for you. Because the truth you were preparing to share was only half of the story. And the words you were about to read would completely redefine everything you thought this connection had always been. A quiet realization settled over everything. The conversation had reached a place where neither of you could hide behind assumptions anymore. Every message felt more honest than the last, as though invisible walls were finally crumbling one sentence at a time. Then your next message appeared and they read it twice before they truly understood it. "The reason I stayed quiet wasn't because I stopped believing in us. I was waiting for you to believe in yourself." Those words caught them completely off guard. They had spent so much time blaming distance, timing, and circumstance that they had never considered the possibility that you had seen their inner struggle long before they admitted it to themselves. Don't skip, because what they uncovered next answered a question that had haunted them from the very beginning. They scrolled back through months of conversations, noticing details that had once seemed ordinary. Every encouraging word you had sent, every patient response, every time you gently refused to let the connection disappear, it had all been intentional. You hadn't been chasing them. You had been quietly leaving the door open, hoping they would one day find the courage to walk through it on their own. Suddenly, another memory returned. It was a conversation you probably thought they had forgotten, or you had casually said, "Some people don't need to be pushed. They only need to know someone is still waiting." At the time, they smiled and moved on. Now those words carried an entirely different meaning. Stay till the end. Because they finally understood that your silence had never been empty. It had been filled with quiet faith that they would eventually choose honesty over fear. Just as they were about to reply, a final attachment appeared beneath your latest message. It wasn't a photo or a screenshot. You needed to hear it. Their finger hovered over the play button as countless emotions rushed through them at once. They knew that once they listened, there would be no returning to the uncertainty that had defined this story for so long. Whatever was inside that recording had the power to erase every remaining doubt or reveal one final truth neither of you had been prepared to face. Something huge is waiting for you, because the very first word spoken in that recording would change the meaning of every message that came before it. The recording began with silence. Not the uncomfortable kind, but the kind that comes before someone finally says what they've carried for far too long. They closed their eyes and listened carefully, afraid to miss even a single word. Then your voice broke through. Calm but unmistakably emotional. If you're hearing this, it means you finally stopped running from the truth. Their breath caught. They hadn't expected those words. They hadn't expected you to understand them so completely. Don't skip, because every second of that recording uncovered another piece of a story that neither of you had ever spoken aloud. Yet both of you had been living for much longer than either realized. Your voice continued softer now, as if every sentence had been chosen with extraordinary care. I never wanted perfection from you. I never expected you to have every answer. I only hoped that one day you'd stop believing you had to face everything alone. Tears filled their eyes because those were the exact fears they had hidden behind every delayed reply and every moment of distance. Then came the sentence that changed everything. There was never another person standing between us. The only thing standing there was fear. Suddenly, every misunderstanding seemed smaller than it once had. Every unanswered question finally had direction. Stay till the end because the recording wasn't over. There was one final truth you had saved until the very last moments, and they could already feel it would change the future more than the past. A gentle pause filled the recording before your voice returned one last time. "There's something I've never told you," you said. "The day I almost walked away, I had already written a goodbye message, but I deleted it because something inside me whispered that our story wasn't finished." They froze. At that exact moment, they remembered doing the very same thing on the very same day without either of you ever knowing. The coincidence felt impossible to ignore. Their phone vibrated again, but this time it wasn't another message. It was an invitation to meet sent with only one simple sentence. "No more disappearing. Let's finish the conversation we should have had from the beginning. Something huge is waiting for you." Because they had finally reached the moment they had dreamed about for so long. Yet, as they prepared to answer, they noticed one unexpected detail in that invitation that neither of you had mentioned before, and it had the power to rewrite everything once again. The tiny detail almost escaped their attention. It wasn't the time or the location of the invitation. It was the date written beneath it. The moment they saw it, they felt a wave of disbelief. It was the very same date they had quietly circled months ago, telling themselves that if nothing changed by then, they would finally let go. You couldn't have known that. No one could have. Yet somehow, without a single conversation about it, you had chosen that exact day to ask for one final meeting. Don't skip, because what seemed like a coincidence was about to uncover a connection neither of you had ever recognized before. Their hands trembled as they whispered, "How could they possibly know?" Instead of answering immediately, they opened an old journal they hadn't touched in a long time. Between its pages was a folded note written in their own handwriting. It wasn't addressed to anyone else. It was addressed to their future self. The final line read, "If hope is still alive when this date arrives, don't walk away. Give love one honest chance." They stared at the words in complete silence. For months they had forgotten that promise even existed. Yet now your invitation had led them back to it at the exact moment they needed it most. Stay till the end because the next discovery made everything feel even more extraordinary. Tucked inside that same journal was something else. A small keepsake connected to a conversation you once had together. Something neither of you ever imagined would become so meaningful years later. They held that keepsake in their hand as another message from you quietly appeared. It wasn't long. It simply said, "Bring the one thing that reminds you of where this all began." Their eyes widened. That was exactly what they were holding. You had no way of knowing they had just found it. Yet somehow your words matched the moment perfectly.